Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, and every variation thereupon. I hope the holidays treated you well. It's been a while since we've talked about anime music, so I want to take a few minutes to talk about that today. Instead of breaking things up to talk about OPs and endings separately, I'm gonna just talk about both on this list. And that's mostly because there just wasn't enough of either one to justify making two separate lists. Especially because I do still have something of a bad habit when it comes to skipping endings if I'm binging something. As always, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so over on Patreon, but more on that at the end. If you'd like to join the community, you can do so by following the link to the Discord server, which is in the pinned comment or the description. Now with the minor housekeeping out of the way, let's go ahead and hop into today's list.
I'll make you
Making another appearance on this channel, Cold Rain continues to give us bangers that also do a wonderful job of preparing us for the story ahead. While the visuals aren't the most exciting thing or the most noteworthy, it's really the music that carries this one for me. I'm sure it can be jarring for some people to suddenly hear an English OP, but I always really love Misato's vocals, and the instrumentation has that charged energy to it that really hypes you up. It's definitely the heaviest of the tracks on this list in terms of genre, but as a fan of heavier music, I was right on board, especially when that chorus hits. I knew I was locked in. Easily the oldest entry on the list today because I forgot all about it when I was originally talking about OPs and endings. Reckless Fire is very much a product of its time. It's from the very early 2000s, which for those of you who aren't born yet, is a period of time when a lot of music was being deeply influenced by Latin American sounds and styles. That vibe kind of makes Reckless Fire feel like a time capsule, but don't get me wrong, the song is a total bop. The Spanish guitar style that sits in the background layered with the horns gives it a lot of texture without feeling silly. This is one of those throwback OPs that was certainly stuck in my head, and I genuinely look forward to revisiting this anime again soon for the channel. Come on, we all knew this song was going to be on this list. When this song first dropped, you couldn't get away from it. And I really hate to admit this publicly, but for the sake of transparency, when I first heard this song, I didn't like it. I think it was the overt silliness of it that made me bounce right off, but upon re-listening to it, I realized that I had jumped the gun. From the use of creaking, to the thumpy bass, to the frankly insane and immaculate flows of Archite, I can see why this became an instant classic for a lot of people. I may have come around to the party a little late, but I cannot deny how entertaining the song is. I also feel the need to touch on how great the visuals for this OP are and how the simplicity of it really works. The sillier art mixed in with the more seriously framed character art does a masterful job of selling the tone of the anime you're about to sit through. While I've heard some interesting and honestly mostly brain-dead takes on why people are bending over backwards to hate on Daima, I refuse to hear any slander about this incredibly smooth OP. Jaa John is a perfect distillation of Daima as a whole, an upbeat, bouncy, energetic ride. The melodies from the vocalists are smooth as butter, and the chorus is the best part. It's meant to be fun, and it certainly achieves that by way of a charming little earworm. The visuals of this OP fall right in line without missing a step, showing us the playfulness of our characters as well as mixing in the action we've come to expect from the Dragon Ball franchise. So this one might actually be my favorite OP of last year, especially for setting aside all of the obvious contenders. Cure has a mid-2000s feel to its style, and I absolutely love the guitar melody that opens and closes the track. It has an almost grungy, rough around the edges feel to it, as if it's not mixed to perfection the way a lot of modern music is. The rougher vocal performance is definitely not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but for me, it stuck the landing in a way that I can't quite convey properly. The visuals aren't going to blow you away for this OP, but they do a good enough job of selling the product itself. And honestly, the basic nature of it does remind me of how simple anime OPs were back in the early and mid-2000s. Hitting the first of only two endings to make it onto this list is Falling Up. I don't much care for the OPs for Tower of God, and if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I don't much care for the show itself either. So imagine my surprise when I accidentally stuck around and ended up listening to the ending, and it ended up being surprisingly, genuinely good. It's the kind of track you'd imagine hearing after a shock twist where it just kind of eases you back down after the episode ends. The vibe of this song is so chill, and despite my gripes with Tower of God itself, thematically it does fit the show very well. The soft guitar and the low-key bass in the background have a solemn dreaminess to them before the full force of the instrumentation hits you during the chorus. Even after episodes that were total shit, I always looked forward to hearing this song. The visuals are interesting but make no sense outside of the context of the show, so I'm not even going to bother trying to explain to you why they're interesting aside from the pseudo-painted art style. I hate to say it, but listening to this track at the end of an episode became my favorite part of watching Tower of God, so make of that what you will. Probably the most beautifully animated on this list, Haru comes out the gate with a feel-good jam that's carried by the guitar and the drums before anything else even gets involved. The vocal performance is also stellar, and it gives the song a summer jam kind of feel to it, like I could picture myself listening to this in my car with the windows down. The visuals have some of the most vibrant palette choices of any anime in the past year or so, and considering that the show is all about gaining and losing connections, I love that the OP highlights the various connections between people we've met or will meet. In terms of a complete package, this OP gives you everything you could ever want while also being a precursor to an equally satisfying anime. I don't know how many of you have actually even seen this anime, and while I have gripes with the story itself, the OP has a kind of commanding charm to it. Given the show's subject matter, the OP does a fantastic job of highlighting the sense of wonder that comes with understanding the cosmos, as well as the very real dangers of having that knowledge in the time period the show takes place in. The animation has a fluidity to it that I wasn't quite expecting, particularly during the chorus, which also has grand, sweeping instrumentation and vocals to match. This OP taps into the sense of imagination that it takes to truly change the world, and the music has a haunting quality to it that seems to reinforce the weight of that. This one grew on me over time, but once it did, I found myself unable to skip it.
Nobody got you the way I do. Whatever damage you're fading through.
The second of two endings on this list comes from breakout series Kaiju number 8. While I didn't much care for the OP, I really enjoy the ending track. I wasn't expecting to see One Republic credited for the song, but I'm not mad at it. The lyrical content paired with the imagery on screen does a great job of selling the relationships of these characters that the story is building up for us. I'm also just a sucker for stylized credit sequences like this one, with the audience getting to see snapshots of the various characters in non-life-threatening situations. It adds so much humanity to the roster, and I genuinely love it. I will let you know now though that if you end up liking the song and you decide to look it up on Spotify or YouTube, the official track is different from the anime version, so just prepare yourself for that. My Hero Academia has a plethora of great OPs, but the most recent one that rounded out Season 7 is quickly becoming one of my favorites. Not only is the vocal talent fantastic, but the lyrical content is perfectly suited to the point in the story that we've just gotten to. The animation on top of those things make it truly feel like we're finally coming to the conclusion of a series that's been running for ages now. Just like Frieren, connection is a big part of My Hero Academia's thematic foundation. Through the lyrics and the imagery, we're shown so many connections that have been made, have been lost, and connections that people are trying desperately to save. Seeing the different eras of Deku and Shigaraki reflected at each other through their respective journeys as hero and villain give me the same vibes as watching Naruto and Obito grow up in the Silhouette OP. Rounding out today's list, you guys knew this one was going to be here too. Just like their contribution to Mashle, CreepyNuts knocked this one out of the park. It was inescapable on social media to the point where people were checking out the show just to see what all the fuss was about. The visuals are interesting and certainly not the style that's typically attributed to a lot of modern OPs. The animation is bizarre and full of inside baseball for fans that are already familiar with the plot, but it's just as beautiful as it is strange. The track itself is a disgustingly catchy set of flow switches by Arshite, who also mixes in his delightfully light vocals at key moments to bring it all home. While for some people it can come across as a copy-paste job of their previous hit, I genuinely never felt that way. I can genuinely see this being someone's favorite OP of 2024, and I don't know that there are very many people that would be offended by that opinion. And that wraps up today's list. If a song that you enjoy isn't here, it does not mean that I hate it. It probably means I just didn't enjoy it the way you did, since I'm particularly picky about the music I consume. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what music anime brings us in 2025, so maybe I'll make this an annual segment on the channel. I've got a solo leveling video coming for you guys next, since Season 2 has already started, so make sure you're subscribed for that when it goes up relatively soon. As always, a big thank you to these wonderful people for their continued support over on Patreon, with a special shout out to Celestial Tier members Brendan Carlson, Stephen PD101, This One Sneck, Totally Reasonable Curb, and Trey Hardy. If you'd like to see videos early, get your name in the credit scroll of every video, receive one of the upcoming postcards, or see some exclusive content I'm going to start posting on Patreon, head on over and sign up. Also, I want to do more gaming related videos, both essays and challenge runs, so I'm going to fold my other content into this channel. That'll give me some breathing room while working on projects and such. Not to mention, I still have a Pokemon Challenge run from ages ago that I need to finish editing, so I guess that'll premiere on this channel. Remember to take care of yourselves and others. I'll see you soon, and as always, thanks for watching.